This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So what do you do when the marketplace has different ideas for your business? Listen in as the Two Business Guys mastermind on ways to stay on top of your game even as the marketplace changes. Enjoy. So hey John, man, welcome to the show. What we're going to be talking about today is like a perfect segue, or what happened today is a perfect segue into what we're going to be literally talking about on the show. You know, guys, before I came on, John and I were just talking like we typically do before the show, going over our notes and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, everything stopped working. Right now, this is a reasonably brand new computer, and it just stopped working. At the same time, the microphone stopped working. So did the anything that was inputted in, right? Anything that was in the front ports stopped working. I even went and got an old school plug-in, keyboard, and that didn't work. So business is like that. Sometimes stuff just breaks. And, we wanted to talk about when the market just doesn't agree with your product. Right? What do you have to do? And one of the topics that when I sent it over to John says, hey, what do you think about this? We could, I think this happens a lot in entrepreneurship, and it happens in business, especially post-pandemic. What do you do? What do you do when the market has other plans for your product? Just what happened? What do you do when you have other plans? The computer has other plans than to let you on and do your podcast. Right now, in this particular case, successfully and within about 10 minutes, I was able to boot up another computer. It was a laptop. This one I was working off was the desktop. So, but not every business has a chance to just, I'll just go to another business. But sometimes you got to switch. And I think the pandemic of 2020 taught a lot of people, you got to pivot. John, I was just having a conversation with one of the entrepreneurs in the class that I run. And, she was like not knowing what to do. Right? Because now she said, I says, well, you might have to do what you do virtually. Virtually. And she was like, well, I don't really know how to do that. How many people are in that situation? Well, I understand, but I'm a little scared of the technology. I says, well, one of the things that I like to do and is helping, people just kind of reimagine, reinvent, whether it's themselves or their business, is I says, let's sit down and let's come up with some points that we can some scaffolding, if you will, that we can build around what you already do well. And then I says, we're going to take the power of your knowledge, and then we're going to be using the new technology. I said, just imagine if we went back to high school at our age now. I said, we'd kill the game. It'd be no contest. We would have no fear. I said, because of what we know. I said, so in this particular case, your business with what you know, you're going to now bring in these other tools that you're a little scared of. I said, we might have to get somebody to do a little bit of that stuff, but you're going to be rocking this stuff virtually. And again, it takes away from what I'm hearing from a lot of entrepreneurs, John, is that I don't do it that way. Yep. But the marketplace is saying, hey, I don't care how you do it. This is how you have to do it if you want to survive. So let's get into this, man. When, the market has other plans for your product, what do we do, John?
I think the first thing that we have to look at is our mindset. Jim Collins has a great quote in his not quote, but what he's trying to portray in his book, Great by Choice, is that your business may have had the struggles. It may have had the setbacks. It may not have the resources as some of the other companies, but it's your mindset and your choice if you want to keep pursuing. Whereas others might leave the game. We've come through a difficult 8, 9 months, 10 months at this point, through the pandemic and whatnot, and we've seen a lot of businesses fail, and we've seen
Big businesses,
big
hotel
businesses.
chains wiped out,
Yep,
restaurants wiped out,
and
airlines are teetering.
we've also seen great success too in some businesses. We've seen businesses emerge, and we've seen businesses transition and using their skill set to do something totally different than what they were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, even the automobile companies, they were getting calls from the White House and whatnot about, hey, can you make respirators and various things
Mm-hmm.
during this time of need. And I think we have to look at business like that, that what we have planned, our vision may not always come out the way that we want it, and we have to be okay with that. We can't be so rigid that we die with the business. It's kind of like, hey, I'm making horse carriages, and Henry Ford's riding around in the horseless carriage, but I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to stop making this horse, the horse carriage, the horse-drawn carriage, because this is what I've always done. Well, it doesn't matter what you've always done. The the market is going to transition you, but the mindset is number one. Number two is what exactly is going on. There could be a host of issues when you're looking at, hey, my business isn't penetrating the market. Is it because you weren't focused on the right market in the first place? Are you not selling the benefits of the solutions that your product or service is providing to the marketplace?
Mm-hmm.
Are you showing the value of your product or service? There's a number of things that we have to investigate. We can't just look surface level and say, hey, nobody's buying off my e-commerce site. Well, what if they can't find your e-commerce site because they're doing Google searches saying you're nowhere to be found? Well, that's something with SEO. So that might not be that you have crappy products or a service. It just means that, hey, we have to hire a professional that's going to fix the SEO so I
Mm-hmm.
can pull up on a Google search. So I think besides the mindset, we have to be problem solvers, continuous problem solvers. And this doesn't quit. This is always something that is innate within an entrepreneur, is that you're always going to be solving problems because our world changes constantly. The products and services change constantly. So how do you adjust with that? And are you so rigid where you're not willing to ask yourself these serious questions?
Yeah, May, you make a really good point. Top of mind, look at your mindset. I was just looking at some stuff that Peter Diamandis does, and Peter H. Diamandis, and this guy's, just a rock star, man, entrepreneur. He's a speaker, he's, author, he does innovator, you know what I mean? And he does so many things. Singularity University, always on the cutting edge. He just started another company called Future Loop. And he's putting himself in a position to constantly move between opportunity. And that's what Singularity University is all about. It is how to now take these cutting edge innovations and then, put them out into the marketplace so that they make a huge, big difference in the world, right? So, but he had this thing on his Twitter feed that talked about mindset. What is your mindset? Right? And that if you have the proper mindset, you can do anything. And then he kind of asked a question, do you believe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that it's mindset. And I went on and I've had this long, I use up all my characters to answer that. And I says, because, hey, look, the mind wants to conserve energy. I said, so it's trying to do the simplest thing. It's trying to do the repeatable thing. I said, but if you've got, so it's trying to get into some kind of rote, right? Something that is constant. And then when it faces change, it doesn't really like that. It doesn't like to move like that. So we have to, kind of like I had to do my computer, got to hard boot it and see if that works. If it doesn't, then it's got to go to the shop. So what do you do, for your business? How do you take it to the shop? One of the things that you mentioned, if you're in a B2C situation, you might have to switch to B2B. If you've been B2B, here's something that's really interesting. If you've been B2B, you might now have to go to D2C, direct to consumer. And John, that was something I had called you about last week. I sent you a couple of texts, and because I know with your business, I says, listen, I said, I know you're doing the B2B side of it, right? You're going right to the retail stores and all that kind of stuff. I said, but I said, I got an idea, and I would like to explore some of these ideas that would obviously benefit your business, and then as an affiliate, it would benefit me, if it would work. And I know you were really, really busy last week and you didn't get back to me, but I got you Saturday, I got you today. So that's, and I said, so one of the things that is about that was the affiliate, because when I first interacted with your product, I said, man, I think I can push some of these. And you set up an affiliate link, right? But then the affiliate link place either no longer does this, you know what I mean? They may have gone out of business or whatever it is, right? Because I went to use an affiliate link and it wasn't working. So now that's an adjustment, right? So here I'm thinking that I got this nice campaign that I want to run. I was, it was fever hot. I had everything set up and I had the ideal. I had the script for what I was going to do, just trying some different things, right? And right now I got to come and say, hey, look, do you got another code? Do you have something else that you can send me that allows me to track how, if what I'm doing is working, and then track the payments and all that kind of stuff, right? Instead of, hey, I think it came in from this source, kind of a deal, because I was going heavy into it, right? So that becomes the kind of thing that you might have to change. Guys out there, ladies, you're going to have to change some stuff. Your marketplace is telling you a story right now. It's saying, yeah, we don't want it that way. How are you going to get it to them? We don't want it the way a restaurant is giving it. We don't want it the way a retail store is giving it. We don't want it that way anymore. Your marketplace is now adjusting and changing. So it has other plans for your product. Still might be a good product, right? Still might be a good product. I'll give you an example of something I saw just recently in Grand Rapids here where I live. Been seeing these little scooters, right? Now, when I was in Minnesota, they were everywhere. I mean, everywhere. So I thought, my buddy says, man, you ought to go to Grand Rapids and, do something like this. Now, it wasn't what I was interested in doing. And I tell you, no sooner than I get back, I started seeing stories about, spin, right? That's what they're called, spin. You get on them, you pay $1, and then they charge you like 15 cents a mile for where you need to go. Now, that's going to affect some folks. Public transportation. So how many people are using the scooters? People that probably would typically use public transportation. But the marketplace has changed. Now, I wouldn't want to get on a bus with a whole bunch of folks. I may just see this scooter and go, I'm only going, 6 or 7 miles. I'll take that deal. Whereas normally I would call up either a cab, or call up Uber or get in my car. But sometimes it's just not that heavy weight, You might just want to go take a run at a park. I'd rather get on the spin. Now, the marketplace is telling you a story. Somebody's responding to it by saying, hey, we got these things. And then I do a little research and come to find out that, well, guess who owns that? You know who owns Spin? Those little scooters?
Peloton.
No, no, not the spin bikes. I'm talking about the things that you just get on, just little scooters that you get around town on.
Mm,
Who owns those? Ford Motor Company.
huh, interesting. Interesting.
Right? Now, you notice I didn't say automobile, Ford Motor Company. So you might have to adjust the business that you're in. This is some of the things that we got to start, really having hard conversations about. Is like, what business do you think you're in? And then think again. I
Yeah,
better,
absolutely.
I better write that down. That sounds like a good title for something. What business do you think you're in? Think again.
and and we have to be realistic that everything starts at some point. Um, the Wright brothers, they were bike salesmen, and then all of a sudden they start researching and trying to come up with a flying apparatus. So they're in that transportation space. They weren't, it wasn't just solely about, hey, we're only going to build things with wheels or whatnot. Um, when Domino's Pizza was being birthed in Ypsilanti, Michigan, in the 50s, one of the they were like the first pizza place to do delivery. And the reason they did delivery was because one of the founders was a college student. He's like, hey, these college students are busy, they're getting out of class. Why don't we take them to the college kids, these pizzas? I mean, that's how pizza delivery got started.
Isn't that
And,
interesting?
and yeah, and it's like coming up. That's the solution. College kids are busy. We're gonna take the pizza to them. Well, look at now with COVID and how places like Shipt and Grubhub and those types of things have just exploded over this time. Um, there's an opportunity, a time and place for everything, and it's what is going to be the next thing. So what's the next thing in your place and space with your product or your service that you could be this innovator, this trendsetter for generations to come?
Yeah. And it's adapting to your customer needs. It's just right in our notes here. Adapting to your customer needs. Right now, we don't want to just give you surface stuff like, "Hey, it's two Mr. Obviouses." You know what I mean? We don't want to be that. We want you to have and be on the cutting edge of thinking about this stuff. So, what is that going to require? Now, of course, John and I, because we're so versed in this stuff, we can sit down with your business and help you think about these things. But as you start thinking about, how has my customer changed? What do they need now? One example is, I was just talking to a young lady that I mentor a little bit, and she had started off really, really well with her project, man, was going gangbusters, and then life stuff happens, right? She's got to deal with some relatives that are suffering from the COVID, and it's weighing on her heavily. Now that stopped her progress. John, do you know how many times I'm hearing people say stuff like that? They've had to stop because life is happening.
Yeah,
Life is happening. Now what? The marketplace is changing. You're changing. What do you do next?
and
They're somebody's customer.
yep, those are the realities of it. That things are always going to be moving. Things are always going to be fluid. So your personal life and your business life and the economy around you and the needs, none of that is ever going to shut down. It's all going to stay moving regardless. We could say shut down the economy, but the economy never shuts down.
Right.
um,
Right. Something
you're
adjusts.
Something adjusts, and we saw new things emerge. Yes, you can have all of this stuff can bog you down in your day-to-day life and take you away from your business.
Mhm.
We get it. We have families as well, but there is always something. And is that something going to drive you? Because we see this in other innovators. Is it going to drive you to the next level, or is it going to make you? Is it going to give you an excuse to back out and back down
That's
and back
good.
up? We have a choice, and that's what we when we talk about mindset. Um, we look at cereals. Let's look at this cereal and how popular breakfast cereals are. That that started as a way to cleanse your, provide yourself the fiber that you need to cleanse. It was a medical thing.
Mm,
In Battle Creek, Michigan, where the Kellogg brothers, they had this to for their health and wellness of their patients.
mm.
And one brother wanted to take this into the commercial aspect, where the doctor brother said, no, this is solely for this purpose of staying within. Well, the other brother took it into the, and look what it is today. We have so many competitors. Kellogg's is massive, uh, but it's, you have to be willing to, yes, this is something that you started for this specific reason, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay in this specific little niche.
Right.
Uh,
What business are you in? Right.
right, right. And so that was, the visions on of conflict between brothers, but we have to think of everything like that. Um, so it's we have a choice, and it always goes back to that, the first thing that we talked about this morning, which is the mindset.
That kind of it speaks to finding the solution to your customer's problem. Right now, we hear that when you're starting business, always find a solution to your customer's problems. And then, of course, I kind of, I got a little pushback on that by saying, there's always opportunity. Presenting your customer with an opportunity. Don't wait till they, get a problem. Right. That's like the medical field, right? Don't wait till you get a problem. Do preventative medicine. In this particular case, it's like preventative businessing, right, or problems in business. But it speaks to having that proper mindset that you spoke about. It speaks to what you said about Jim Collins and great by choice, right? And then it is constantly being on the lookout for what is changing within your customer base and finding solutions to the new problems or presenting to the new opportunities. Just from what we had to deal with and go through with COVID-19, outside of the medical part of it, right? There are whole high schools, businesses that are like, don't come to school. That's a problem, but that's huge opportunities. I tell you, I remember when I went to find a new laptop. This is why I ended up buying these laptops and these new computers used. Maybe that's why I'm having problems with this one, right? But there were no computers. Walmart was wiped out. Best Buy, no, you couldn't find them. Why? People were buying them. New opportunities. Now, from that, because so many people are connected, now the business that I was running, my podcast, my other podcast, Earn Every Dime Online, started doing, it's like all of these messages now started resonating with folks because they start saying, I may have to figure this out online. Then we start getting people started getting furloughed. And it was like, I really got to figure this out. So now out of a problem came not only an opportunity, but also came a new customer base. If you're out there in your business does one thing and you're saying, you hear all the gurus say focus for results. Yeah, but guess what? You are over there and now you're beta tape, right? Remember beta tape, VHS tape. That's like the 8-track tape. That's like the cassette tape, right? That's like CDs that now are streaming. I don't see anybody with CDs anymore. Every now and then, right? In some of the old cars, you got to be the thing that all of these mediums go on. and that's in, music, content, whatever it is, right? So how can you look at your business in a whole different way, solve the new customer problem? And then one of the things that I noticed that you put in our notes, John, is you might have to change up the whole way you do business. You may have to go from commercial to social, right? A social enterprise. And I know Ineffable Socks, that is a kind of you have a social component to that, right? So that's not a C corp. But I think they call them B corps now, right? And I know you're not straight under B corp, but that is baked into what you do. You have a social component. You have a give back, and what a better time to do that than now.
And I think even a lot of nonprofit organizations are going to have to move to a model like that, because even donations, to nonprofit organizations, our generation and the generations that come after us, they don't give in the same way as our parents' generation.
Mm-hmm.
Where our parents' generation gave, our generation is social impact. So it started with like the Tom's Shoes of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know what, I'm giving back, but I'm also getting something. So it's like a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas it, it was just that feeling for our parents' generation. So I think even the nonprofit industry, I believe that's going to be migrating more into that social enterprise space. They're going to have to figure out what is it that we could provide. And some organizations already do this now. We have counseling centers that are nonprofits, so they're providing a service. Some hospitals are not for profit. A lot of them are. They're providing services, obviously, but a lot of nonprofit organizations don't run off of providing a service to the person that supplies them with the capital.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a donation. But I think what we're going to see over the next 20 years is a huge transition into that. Those nonprofits are going to have to move into the social entrepreneurship space.
So in essence, you're going to be focusing on a whole different set of customers. There was one really, really cool example um, in the diaper space,
Mm-hmm.
right? Huggies. That was fascinating when I saw this. Huggies. And then you go, well, who else could we serve in a whole
Yep.
different
Yep.
way? And then now you have Depends, a brand of, and I'm not sure if is it Huggies? Is that a Huggies
I
brand?
No, I don't believe so. But what my point was in making that is, hey, you know what? There's always going to be a market. Kids are always going to need diapers.
Mm-hmm.
But even if they didn't, let's say that kids were getting potty trained right away. Well, you also have the need on the flip side of the elderly and needing Depends adult diapers. So you, there's always something else that even if we were teaching kids how to be potty trained really really quickly, and so it cut into Huggies margin, they could always make adult diapers.
That's interesting. So again, we keep going back to you having the proper mindset, you having a flexible mindset, you being great by choice. You're not letting anything slow you down and stop you. These are some of the things that, as you think about your business, start thinking, and it's all good. Again, we understand the whole focus model. We get that. But if the pandemic of 2020 hasn't really turned that thinking on its head and has you constantly scratching beneath the surface of more that you could possibly be, right? And having scenarios, those 5 and 10 year plans, I don't know about them. We know that technology is changing absolutely just too rapidly to have a plan that you believe is going to stand up to the marketplace, because the marketplace might have another idea for it. Marketplace might go, if it were a person, it's a person that changes its mind because it feels like it.
Mhm.
Right. Now, if you come out with all these nice 5 and 6 year plans and all that kind of stuff, you might be in trouble. If you,
Especially if you're, I mean, if you're using them as a guidepost and you're willing to be flexible and move those guideposts, you be okay, and you should have some sort of plan that you are working off of, but you have to be agile. You have to be willing to see the market and what's coming at you and be able to move. It's kind of like Barry Sanders. He sees the linebacker coming in, and Barry Sanders was fascinating to watch because he didn't try to, he's 5'8", he didn't try to 5'8", 5'9", he didn't try to go through the
that's
linebacker.
right.
He knew how to step to the side and get around the linebacker, and we have to be thinking like that as business owners.
Yeah. And I know it was so fascinating to watch him, especially here in Michigan. And I know when he decided to retire, the new coach came on, and the new coach's style had always been boom, between the tackles, run left, runs, north and south. And Barry was like, I'm out because it's not that kind of back, right? And he wasn't going to deal with that. So, as you think about that metaphor, and you start thinking, okay, how can I be like Barry Sanders versus the North and South runner? The North and South runner is cool in that kind of environment, but your business now is being faced with, I got to be Barry Sanders, right? I got to check this out, and I got to adjust. I got to dance. I got to do whatever I need to do to keep moving forward. Now that may mean different technology. What are you using right now that is serving you, but you see on the horizon new opportunities? Who in your company is out there exploring these new opportunities? If even if you're just a one person band, right? Then having someone, or even if you had to outsource it, having someone that goes out there and lets you know what's new in the marketplace, what's new, what can we use, what can affect what we do, and maybe save us money, maybe put us in a different position. But if you just have your blinders on, this is what I really want to concentrate on, is helping you take those blinders off. If you just got your blinders on, then you're not going to see these other opportunities. Now, of course, that comes with its own problems, right? The new shiny thing syndrome. I can attest that that is a pull, because every single day something's dropping. Every single day there's some new whatever. But if you look at this new whatever and you say, well, you know what? I'm not going to dive all the way in. I'm going to just tap my toe over there a little bit. Check it out and see if it's something that can work within my business without having to constantly be changing up everything. It didn't even give this one a chance to go. Right. But again, you can't be too hard headed either. You got to say, well, I really like this other one, but this is better. I do that with editing software. I'm always looking at something new, right? It's saying, what can get me there faster? And then some stuff is just overpowers your machine and makes it break. Like John said earlier, he says, man, you need a supercomputer with all the stuff that you're doing. And so even with that, right? So I'm saying, no, maybe I just need to outsource. I outsourced this just last week. I outsourced more projects than I ever had. And I did that because guess what? I found myself spending too much time trying to figure out a different program. Right. And it wasn't a super, I was able to kind of get it, but then there was some problems. I said, man, I don't like the way this looked. And it was something simple. It was like taking pictures out of pictures, right? How do you do that? And I got a program, but I said, wait a minute. I spent 2 hours trying to figure this out. And I was able to outsource it and get like, 20 pictures done for like $10. So think about that. All these pictures done for $10 versus me spending all of this time trying to figure this thing out just to say what I know how to do it. And then it wasn't the best. It still has rings around it. The halo effect, they call it, I found out, right? Now, this is a case where you need to use your technology. You need to perhaps outsource what you can, and then do what you do best. What John and I are doing right now, what I do best is being able to create content, being able to think up different things, being able to go, okay, let me usher in the resources to get stuff done. All right. I love to, see new technology and then ask questions of it. How can I use this? That may be the thing that you do best. That may be what you're in love with, right? Finding this out. And then you go find somebody that says, hey, all I love to do is use new technology. And you kind of, combine with them and get something done. Then you present it. That may be the thing that's going to propel your business because the marketplace is telling you. You got all of these people out there that are suddenly without jobs, but they're great at a thing.
Randy, 3 years ago, I would spend a lot of time and money flying different places throughout the week, driving different places, staying in hotel rooms for an hour meeting.
Mm.
And Zoom, it's not that products like Zoom didn't exist then, but the environment of COVID has made me realize, and I think this would be something that it would be great advertising on WebEx and Zoom and whatnot, is, hey, you know what, why are you wasting all this time when you could go in, you can see the person face to face,
Mm-hmm.
and you can meet with them. Yes, there's a cost to it, like $120 a year or whatever, but that's what you'll spend. You'll spend that in one day of the week on a hotel room,
That's right.
without your fuel. I mean, there's still a cost. What's the return though? And that's a solution where I wouldn't have to stay in a hotel room. I'm not driving all over the place, putting wear and tear on a vehicle, or flying a plane, spending time away from my family. Whereas I could, for a 1 hour meeting. So being able to sell those solutions, and there's so many out there that we haven't even thought of yet. And like I said, this technology isn't so new that it wasn't available three
No,
years ago.
Zoom's been around for a long time.
It's just we weren't cognizant enough because we weren't made to use it
Mm-hmm.
like we are today. And now you're like, oh my goodness, why did I ever do that? That was ridiculous. You know?
Exactly. This has changed everything. But that's the breakthrough in your business. And then you start thinking to yourself, oh, I'm saving so much money. My bank account is going up because I'm not taking it down. Your bank account could go up. Now, here's the part where we're talking about the mental dexterity, the flexibility, right? You have to have the mindset that says, I will do what's in best interest of my company, my bottom line, versus this is how I have always done business. I like the handshake. I'm not shaking your hand, right? I like to be able to be in the room so I can, yeah, that's not happening anymore, right? So you've got to develop some different nuances. And think about the opportunities that come from that. So if I'm a psychologist and I was, normally helping people understand the room, see how it's moving, see what, people are shrugging their shoulders, all these, you know what I mean, these experts that are in the, to facial recognition to the point where you can see, get an idea what person might be thinking or whatever, when they're resistant. Well, guess what? You can now transfer that to Zoom, right? If somebody's back in the back, and they're writing something down, they're texting, they're not paying attention. All that now can transfer, and that could become a whole nother thing. I've already seen businesses that sell Zoom backgrounds, right? And I remember when this first started, I said, man, I should get into the Zoom background business. Didn't move on it fast enough. And next thing you know, Zoom background business, right? And then I started thinking, I said, we should, be thinking about and doing some kind of service around Zoom etiquette. Didn't move fast enough. Now you got whole classes on Zoom etiquette. Who knew, right? So you have to have the mental dexterity, the flexibility. Your mindset has to be in a way that you're saying, What are the new next opportunities that I can use because of the new technology?
Well, and you even think about mental health professionals and medical professionals. It, there's a time when, I don't want to go to a physician. I don't want to, talk to a counselor because it takes time. I have to schedule it. I have to do this and that. But now with all the technology and different things out there, you see now, hey, someone's having a mental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's an app for that where you can speak with somebody via app. Hey, I don't want to set an appointment. I don't have time, or I don't have transportation to get there, or whatnot, or I just I'm afraid somebody will see me going in and out or whatever.
There it
And
is.
yep,
Somebody might see me. So you privacy,
yep,
the shame factor,
yep.
right? You're sitting at the doctor's office. The doctor specializes in one thing, and there you are. Now, because of telehealth, technology could be changing all of that. Not only for you personally, but now we just extrapolate that idea into our business. I mean to cut you off, John, but I wanted to jump in on that one.
No, I think that's actually where I was going. So absolutely, but there's so many different things that just within this 10-month period that have taught us just generally about business and how we can't think that the economy won't change, that things are going to be stagnant and the way that they've always been. Uh, this disruption has taught us that, hey, you know what? I have to be able to think differently. Circumstances are going to come up, they're going to present challenges, but how am I going to transition my business in order to meet that challenge? Or heck, if I'm not making aprons anymore, um, but people need masks, I'm going to start making masks.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm a pizzeria, but I see that everybody's doing these bread recipes and whatnot, make your own bread. Maybe I'm putting together kits or something that sells these packages where people could do them. That was one of the big things during the shutdown, as people were making all kinds of breads. We just have to be able to look at things differently. And I think that's what we're telling you. We don't know exactly what it is in your place and space with your product or your service or whatnot, but just have the flexibility to be able to look beyond what you normally see.
That's so key. And don't get me wrong, it's not like your competition is standing still. It's not like you've got this sudden insight and all of a sudden everything is working right for you and the competition's going, well, they just beat us. No, they're out there doing the same things. And depending on whether or not they have the deep pockets or not, they may be doing it fast or they may be doing it slow. But in that time frame, if you are nimble and quick, you can make some huge money. You can get some first to the market type stuff and then start innovating off of that. That becomes your opportunity. If you say, hey, listen, you now are taking a strength, a weakness that you originally thought was a weakness and turning it into a strength because you're saying, hey, I can move way faster than they can because they've got all these legacy issues. They've got all of this money into this department. They're in the middle of building out this building. And you're going, it's just me in the house. It's just you in a room, right? And how can you now take that being you in the room and go out there and crush the game? Think about it. You got backgrounds you can put. Nobody has to see. Like right now, if you're looking at this on YouTube, you see, and I got green screens. I got books. My background is showing, but I could have put up a screen. Didn't want to do that today because I had to move quickly because my other computer broke down. But the point is that you can now get out there and just start crushing it, and nobody knows how big you are, how small you are. All they know is that you're providing a solution to their problem, right? And John and I, right now, we are masterminding on, all these different ways that we can be a solution oriented, finding the problems first and then saying, what can we marshal in terms of resources to solve those, right? And how would that look? It doesn't have to be us hoisting up all of the stuff. We are just saying, what do we need to do? We're two business guys at Mastermind, so let's mastermind on those kind of problems.
And I think a lot of business owners are like, man, my business is perfect. What do I need to change? Hold on for a minute. I guarantee you, if you look at something else of somebody others, you can find something that needs to be changed. It's because you're looking for it. Look for it in your business as well.
Yeah.
Um, because there are things you just have to be willing to honestly assess what is going on in your business.
Yeah, it's like what you wrote here. And are you truly conveying the value of your product or service? That's like knowing what business are you that you're in. Are you truly conveying, right? I'll give you an example. You might be able to bring your business over, right? And you said, hey, this is what I do. This is what I know. This is how I started. Here's my mission. Here's my vision statement. And then John and I can look at it and go, hey, we see 18 other possibilities. 18? Absolutely. In this area, use this technology, use this talent, usher in. You see, sometimes you need to have someone else come in and just take a look at stuff, right? Look in, not the people that are within the industry because they have their blinders on. This is all they know. This is all they've experienced. These are the people they've talked to, all of that, right? Somebody that comes in and says, hey, here's an opportunity off of this one branch because our ears are always on the grindstone, right? I'm not saying, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Our ears are to the ground, whatever, right? I don't want my ear on the grindstone, but our ears are always on the ground and we're listening for what's changing, what's happening. I teach this stuff. John teaches this stuff. We are always trying to figure out what is next and new that is helping, whether we're helping our entrepreneurs or whether you're working it within your stock company, John, and what I do on at Arbery's Business Institute. We're always looking for something that says this is coming. And we see a lot of stuff. We see trends all the time, right? That are before their time. And then a situation like COVID-19 hits, and all of a sudden, that thing that was 2 years away is right now. We got to do this right now. You have companies that are just getting out there crushing it, trying to figure out a vaccine. Well, that's ushering in new sequencing with regard to DNA, trying to figure out this virus, right? How can we keep people from dying? All of these things are now in rapid rotation. They're rushing in. And some of this is what I see. Some of the stuff that it was good and was working is going to be ignored because companies are going to be on to different things. Well, there's opportunity there. It's not to say that it wasn't working. It's just to say now that people's attention there, it's in a different area. So what about the ignored? Right? What about the ignored? Can you now provide a service that helps what's being ignored? Just something simple as when we see all these people, entrepreneurs, the lives are changing, stuff is happening, right? They got to stay at home with their kids now, their grandkids, or whatever it is. Okay. And now they had to ignore this. Well, what can you provide? What can you be as a relief? How can you help the grandmas, right? The poppies, right? How can you help the folks that are now at home? What can you provide? Maybe you have to come in, fully geared up, right, to watch the kids while they get a break. Who knows? But it's all an opportunity. It's all a service. Babysitters, right? I don't know if we had talked about this on one of the other shows, but babysitters right now are now having to sit the kids down in front of a laptop, a computer. That means they're going to need new modems probably, right? Because you got more kids over the house, right? And now they got to be slightly a teacher with no teaching degree. So now they're being asked to do more. What is a product, a service you can offer them? A website, right? It's something my wife and I were talking about. I love to, throw different ideas out there. I says, we need to do something for grandparents that suddenly are now the teachers. And grandparents are looking at the math and going, I don't know that math. They're being asked to do extra stuff. the technology. They got to plug in stuff now, right? How can you be that service? Comes in and helps them out, get them all set up, and then get a check and then leave. That's It's just one of those things, John. Now, okay, to it's not to say that that little niche that you had has to go away, because you now need to ask some really interesting questions, John. I like what you put in the notes here. Is your niche too broad?
Mhm.
Right? Is your niche too broad? Now
We try
we're
to, a lot of times we try to fit everything under that.
right, right.
Uh, who's our, my customers, everyone. What are you talking about? Well, hold up. You're going to have a really difficult time marketing that product if you're trying to encompass everyone into that, because everyone is different. They don't all we don't have all have the same issues or needs or various things like that. That's why it's important to dig down further.
Yeah, you got to dig. I had someone on LinkedIn ask me, he's trying to sell whatever product that he had going on, and I like to engage these folks, because if they got a good rap, maybe I'll talk with them, right? But if they don't, so he's like, hey, who's your customer? I said, certainly not everyone, right? And I was able to literally, because I mean, that was a space he in, so he was in. So I was able to write down to the letter who I believe my customer is in this particular category, right? I didn't hear from him again. I think if I came in and said, well, everybody, then he might have saw it in and says, well, it can't be everybody. But so we're asking you to be mentally flexible. We're asking you to open up your mind, have a great mindset, but at the same time, be just aware that you don't go too broad and you go, wow, now I can serve everybody. Well, that may not be where your strengths lie. So you might just kind of consider this as you're moving along, as you're fixing pieces and parts of your business, as you're readjusting and reacquainting yourself so you can navigate better. As you're doing all these things, try not to get overwhelmed. This is our big ask of you, right? Try not to get overwhelmed. This is something that is on my heart, because I'm watching a lot of entrepreneurs that are dealing with certain things in their personal life and is now affecting their business life. They're pushing their business to the side, right? Now, we started this conversation off with, the marketplace starts changing, but guess what? You are the marketplace. You're somebody's customer.
Hmm.
You're somebody's customer. So, the marketplace may have other ideas for not only your product, but because you're changing, you're now providing someone an opportunity. So we just ask that you don't get so overwhelmed that you're not keeping your eyes open to what can help you. That you don't say to yourself, well, I think I can fix it. And you try to brute force fix it with putting in more work, putting in more time. It may mean, like we said earlier, ushering in outsourcing opportunities.
Hmm.
I had never outsourced because I love to do stuff myself. Now I have to. It just makes so much economic sense to do it. And I'm happy. John, I didn't want to do those 16 pictures.
Hmm.
I was happy to spend that $10 with a tip.
Yep. You turned me on to that outsourcing platform as well, and there's so many different things. And before we wrap up, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody. Talks about, well, my business is struggling because of the economy. I'm not saying the economy doesn't affect your business,
Yeah.
but Americans spend $1.2 trillion on
Oh yeah.
nonsense and on junk every year.
Come on, we
So
gotta we gotta bring that. We gotta unpack that a little bit. 1.2 trillion on stuff.
on
Stuff.
non-necessary stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what COVID has done, John, is refocused us. I tell you, bank account is swelling. Why? I'm not spending on junk. I'll give you an example. I haven't gone to the movies and I don't know how long. Right on tomorrow, I'm literally going to I'm gonna mask up, double mask, whatever I need to do, and we're going to the movies. I used to love the movies, but then when I went, I spent overspent the whole deal. Right, you spend on the movie, then after the movies, you go to dinner, you know, all that kind of stuff. Now that's not junk necessarily. That's your entertainment. But the model, the movie making model, and I have some clients in the movie business. The movie making model has changed so significantly. I'm suggesting to my clients, and I'm not breaking confidence here, I'm suggesting to them that we rethink how we bring the finished product to the marketplace. Because right now there's so many people that are looking for content. Content is king and queen and king, right? So now if you, and so there's tons of opportunity, right? That's why podcasts have been taking off. That's why so much, because it's content that somebody says to themselves, hey, if we got a little more creative, we could turn that into something else, right? So you may need to introduce that as a part of what you do. I tell every client that I talk to, start some kind of content creation business within whatever business you're in. I don't care what it is. Socks, right? Content creation. We have and this is something that, that John gets the opportunity to hear this the first time. But that's was one of the things that I wanted to be on the B2C side. So John, don't take this and run off with it, because I want to be that person that does it for you. Is content creation around socks. All the funny stories we talked about. I don't care if somebody is already doing it or not, right? Ineffable Socks has, I got a whole marketing campaign, advertising points around that idea, right? That would cost me pennies to make, right? And I thought, well, let me test it. And if it works, you get more socks sold. I literally had a dream about this, man. I had a dream. This is no joke. I had a dream that you had a warehouse full of socks. And I said to you, I said, John, why do you have so many socks? It's like customer demand. I says, well, and you says, and because of how we used to do it before, this is the dream. How we used to do it before is that we could get a big order and then we can, the manufacturer would make it. Well, the manufacturer's making masks and all kind of other stuff. They can't do it that way anymore. So what I did was I went and got a whole bunch of demand, then I brought in the product. And I was like, oh, that's kind of the old school way of having a whole bunch of product around and waiting for, yeah, right? So now you could fulfill better, fulfill quicker, be, nimble and quick, but at the same time, you went and got the demand first, right? It's like pre-selling a book. And I was like, yes. And that was the dream, because it's what I talk about with some of my clients is let's go pre-sell it. Let's get the demand. Right? And let's have the wonderful problem of now having to fulfill. But we got the demand. We can raise the prices. We can do all kinds of stuff. But let's go get the demand first, not the other way around.
I've got my website up, so I'm going to be working on that affiliate thing after we get done with this.
Okay. So are you still using Shopify?
I am.
Okay. All right. And I've seen the site's great. All right. And I know I says, wait a minute, you got to find just some other, so that way I can get that code, send traffic to it.
Yep.
Anyway, so guys, are you hearing what we just did? Listen, when we mastermind for each other's stuff too. How can we be of service? How can we help each other? And sometimes when we're talking with you guys about all of these things that you can now be doing and adjusting and adapting your business, and you get the benefit of this mastermind, we also think about stuff for our own businesses. Right? So we thank you for listening to us. We thank you for your plays and your subscription. Please subscribe, send our podcast to friends that and says, look, these two guys are on fire. You need to hear this. We'd appreciate it. So John, as we wrap up, we have covered some, I think some really good ways that if the marketplace has other plans for your business on how business can adjust and adapt. Is there anything else that we need to share before we wrap up?
No, just remember your mindset is so important, because you're going to get curveballs thrown at you. So how you deal with situations, if you have a positive attitude and you're open to thinking differently about forming solutions to these issues, you're going to have a lot more success than someone who's closed-minded and not willing to change at all your business.
That's good stuff. And I just want to invite you guys to next week's episode. We already know what it's going to be about, and it's called What Business Are You In? Man, we're going to unwrap some really interesting things, and we're gonna challenge it, right? We want to get some of you guys to send in some emails to us and talk about the businesses, because we want to talk. We're going to have real businesses that we look at and go, really, is that the business you think you're in? And help you think a little broader. All right, we'll talk to you guys on the next podcast. Talk then.